I was just going to pick your brain today.
Sure.
We always talk about entertainment and food and gambling and
things
shows,
going on at the hotels,
things going on at the
strip
hotels
bars
and the Raiders. Yes,
that's right.
Same thing.
Aliens,
aliens, and
the outer space variety.
And I always like to try. Coming off our trivia episode, I always like to try to talk about something that is important.
Yeah,
because Las Vegas and Nevada is a very important keystone, in my opinion, and I think in the electorate's opinion, to the elections.
Yeah.
Has it always been? No.
No.
But I would say especially the last decade, or 2 decades, it has been crucial.
Yeah.
And I always find that to be so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a not a very descriptive word, but it really is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you last year you went to the caucus.
Yeah.
And this year you went to the caucus.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick your brain.
All right.
How do you go? How for the layman?
Yeah.
Most of us, can barely define caucus.
Yeah.
So how do you get involved? What do you do?
Well, if you're a registered voter, you don't even have to be a registered voter.
Right.
If you could register the day of the caucus.
Okay.
And in fact, my son did because he's registered with the Socialist Party, so he wanted to vote for the Democrats. So he registers that day. You can even go as an observer just to watch.
Okay.
So they have a special badge for that. So you register in advance. Now they tell you the registration is from 10 to 12.
Okay.
4 years ago when I did it, the line was out the door. And it took about an hour and a half to get registered. So they tell you to get there by 10. It's only 10 to 12.
Right.
This time it was much different. Now, they had early voting for the first time in Nevada, and more than half the people had already voted. So when I showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning or a little bit before, there really wasn't that many people there.
And when you say showed up, you showed up at
the site where I was told to show up for this area, which happened to be the middle school.
Okay. Now, is this your voting precinct?
Yes. Now, it's interesting is that when I do vote, when I actually vote, and you go and that's not for the caucus.
Okay.
It's a different location. It's the elementary school.
Okay.
But this time they said it's at the middle school.
Okay.
So you go to the middle school, and then you sign in.
Right.
And they tell you based on your area code where you live, you belong to a precinct.
Okay.
So there may be, the precinct may have, I'm going to guess about 100 people maybe who are registered in your party or, to vote.
Right.
So you then go to your assigned area based on your precinct.
Okay.
So before that all started, because like I said, it wasn't going to start till noon. I got there at 10. I'm standing around, and you have representatives from the candidates come up and say, you know who you're going to caucus for. And there was a young woman who asked me, who was from Bernie Sanders' camp, which was I've been a supporter of Senator Sanders, and she said, "Would you mind being the whip?" I thought, you're going to give me one? Who do I, And basically it was just, you try to convince somebody else who may be undecided to go there.
So let's back up.
Yes.
Because we can attribute Alexander Hamilton and his friends back in the day for creating this system.
Yes.
So basically New York and LA wouldn't, run everything.
Yeah.
Now, tell me and tell all of our listeners for Nevada, what is the Nevada caucus? What is a caucus?
Yeah. Well, Nevada became a caucus state only in 2008. Before that, it was just a primary.
Okay.
Which meant you went into the polling booth and you voted for one of the candidates. And the caucus, usually you have to have... in fact, even the early voters, they say, well, wait a minute, they're voting, can you caucus early? And what you did is you had to put down 3 choices. First choice, second choice, third choice.
Right.
Now, you could say non-committed if you wanted, but if the problem is here that I see one of the issues was if you only put down for one candidate and you did not put down a second choice, they didn't count the vote. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to have that second choice, even if it says non-committed.
Okay.
Because what happens then is, in order for so they have delegates that they're going to dole out and assign based on the number of votes you get.
Right.
So if you were, we'll just use round figures. If there were 100 delegates, and a candidate got 50% of the vote, that candidate would get half of the delegates. If somebody got 10% of the vote, they would get 10% of the delegates.
Okay.
Now, for a candidate to be viable, as that's the term that they use, to be viable, they have to have, for a precinct to be viable, they have to have a certain percentage of votes. So they determined in my precinct, at first, they determined that you needed 14 votes.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, they say, okay, so the people that are in the room. Now, the area I live in is probably not indicative of the state. It's going to be predominantly white. And, hey, Henderson is, by and large, a fairly affluent area.
Generally,
Generally.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be older people. We have Sun City over here. And we know demographically, Joe Biden is stronger among the old people.
Right.
Bernie Sanders is strong among the young people. And the others are kind of divided among the other candidates. So we go down and we sit in our groups, and there's the captain for Bernie Sanders kid is got the deer in the headlights look. He's 19 years old. He said he showed up early and they didn't have a precinct captain for him, and they just gave him this stuff, and he doesn't know what to say. He goes, I don't know. I'll talk for you if you need me to say something.
Sure.
All right. So they counted how many people were in the group. So Joe Biden's group there had the most.
Okay.
in the precinct. He had. I think there were probably 14 or 15.
Okay.
And then Pete Buttigieg had 6. Amy Klobuchar had 3. Bernie had 6.
Okay.
Elizabeth Warren 6, something like that, and Tom Steyer had 5.
Okay.
Tulsi Gabbard had 1. So what happens next is then they add the votes they said to that had pre-voted.
Okay.
Okay, and the thing is you need to have 14. So they said, okay, Joe Biden also got 22 votes that were early votes. So he's already viable. Mm-hmm. He's got enough. Bernie, according to them, only had 7. So that made him 13. He needed 1 more vote to be viable. So did Elizabeth Warren. Pete Buttigieg needed 1. And anyhow, the only one who really weren't going to be viable was going to be Amy Klobuchar. So the rest of us had to try to convince the others who to go to. Okay. Well, I must have done a pretty shitty job.
Yes.
Because, first of all, the contention of the other people speaking was that we needed a centrist. We needed somebody in the center, no radical fringe that they think that Bernie Sanders is.
Okay.
Also, some of them were offended at the fact that he's not a Democrat. He's an independent. So how could he run for the Democratic nominee? All right. Mm-hmm. So they're saying you have to go more center. So when I spoke and gave what I thought was, I said, because I thought they were closer in age to me. I says, one of the things that Bernie touts on is free college, basically. I says, it was free when I went to school, pretty much.
Sure.
So that's not a pipe dream. We've done it before. And I argued that Bernie was the only Democrat that was running because he's really a New Deal Democrat.
Yeah.
That's what he really is. What he is saying isn't anything radical or new. It comes out of Roosevelt. And everything has shifted so far to the right that that these other candidates are, if had they been running a few years ago, would be Republicans.
Yeah, but wasn't it difficult for Nevadans, Las Vegans, to put him in the center? I mean, Bernie is, you go all the way to the left, and then you keep going, and then make a left turn, and then there's Bernie. Yeah. So how do you get him in the center, though? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, no, they were saying that. So Klobuchar is saying, well, we need to try to appeal to Republicans, and that was Buttigieg saying the same thing, and Biden, and even the woman who said she supported Tulsi Gabbard was full of shit because she doesn't know Tulsi's views and saying that she was a centrist. Everybody was a centrist. Even Tom Steyer people were saying that he was a centrist. Huh. And anyhow, what happened was I lost my votes. 3 of my people went decamped. 1 went to Elizabeth Warren. So everybody became viable except Bernie and Amy Klobuchar. And then all of a sudden they said, wait a minute, we got the wrong data. They gave us the wrong precinct numbers.
Wow.
Yes, for the pre-vote. Instead of getting 7 votes, Bernie actually got 16.
And this is after making the decision not to use the app and go manual.
Yes. Oh, so what happens then is the second people had already then were going to cast their second vote. So my Bernie people went from 6 down to 3, right? But then all of a sudden, it said, no, you got to go back to your original groups till we come up with the original numbers.
Right.
Well, Bernie went from 7 votes to 16, which automatically made him viable.
Right.
Biden stayed the same, 22.
Now, Biden at the end, I'm going to skip ahead a little
Sure.
bit, but I have more questions about the procedural things. Biden essentially got second.
Yeah.
And then I'm not correcting you, but I learned something, and apparently it's Buttigieg.
Oh, Buttigieg?
Yeah. And he said it himself on national television, so Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
Yeah,
Huh. Because, one of the signs he had said butt, B-U-T. Oh, wait, come on, for a gay guy, come on. Butt dot edge. Butt edge. I said, that's not how he says it.
It's not really.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, but we just call him Pete, right?
Pete. Yeah, but can you call him President Pete? I couldn't do that. But he cried foul.
Yeah.
And is calling for a recount, if you will, if that's not the right terminology, of Biden's results, because he feels that he was a hair ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I saw that
he cheated in Iowa. I mean, that was pretty clear that there was cheating going on there in his favor.
Tulsi, on the results that I saw, was shown as a 0.
Yeah. So this one woman, actually, she was a nut. She gets out because she's really pandering for herself. She's running for family court judge here locally. So she had to go up there. And like I said, I thought she was out to lunch. I said, well, I know who I'm not voting for family court judge. I'm not voting for Donna Tart or Trout or whatever her name was, something like that. I'm not voting for her.
So I've never been to a caucus.
Yeah.
I do keep abreast of everything on the news for as much as you can believe one side or the other.
Yeah.
But the way I envision a caucus is that it's much like the central floor of the parliament in Britain, where everybody's just yelling at each other.
Well, you're supposed to be somewhat civil. I mean, everybody gets 1 minute to talk about their candidate.
Okay.
Now, some people have to try to shout you down.
Now, are you in pods of people?
Yeah, I mean, we met in the gym of the middle school, so we were in the grandstands, and there's other precincts in the same room, right? I mean, there's on the other side of the grandstands. Okay. So I guess, like I said, in my group, there's probably 30 people.
Okay.
I mean, my my precinct.
Right.
So then, when they finally get around to tallying this and tallying that, we wait around because nobody trusts anybody else to make sure they got the numbers right. They're doing this all by hand.
Yes.
Right? So they do it by hand to dole out the delegates. Now, in my precinct, there's only 4 delegates to hand out.
Yeah.
Well, Bernie gets 2 and Biden gets 2. I think that's how it worked out, or something like that. So they needed a couple of delegates to volunteer to go to the countywide convention, which will be in April. Okay. And I said, well, again, last time I went.
Yes.
And I said, okay, they had one guy who was gung-ho to do it. Great. Another guy, I think I can do it. They're younger guys. You guys go, but if for some reason you can't make it, I'll go for you. So
alternate.
I'm an alternate again.
Alternate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the now again.
And I got out at 3:00, so that's how long it was.
So 10 to 3.
Yeah, pretty much 10 to 3.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's a good sacrifice.
Yeah, and I'm talking.
I
mean, the guy at one of the other precincts, who was also a Sanders supporter, was also a teacher. I say teacher. He was a grad student, a young guy, but he was teaching a political science class at UNLV.
Now, I'm assuming that the participants were varied.
Yeah.
In both education and political background.
Yeah, I would suppose.
Age,
yeah,
race.
I mean, in my district, there was one African American guy, looked to be African American. Another one that was probably 2, maybe African Americans.
Right.
Everybody else was, as far as I could tell, was white.
Now, really?
And old. I mean, old. I mean, there were a few younger people there. I would say by younger, from my perspective, I think 35.
So not a lot of millennial involvement. Okay.
No, I mean, there
That's
were 3. There were that I would say. I think, again, my precinct, we pull in from Sun City, which is a retirement area. So that's where you get the strength for Joe Biden. I think because they're older people, and that was his demographic.
Now, in your caucus, do you think Las Vegas and Nevada, in keeping, was represented well? Do you think? I mean, were people well spoken? Did they have valid points?
No, I don't think that. Of course, what I was listening for. I don't think that that's a valid point. That what we need to do is what the Democrats have to do is appeal to Orange County Republicans who have some type of a social conscience and think Donald Trump is a slob, but they're Republicans. And because this is a problem, I think the Democratic Party has done is that they have ignored the white working class. That's what cost them the election. Democrats don't need any more votes in California. They already had enough. That was Hillary Clinton's problem, right? I mean, she won the popular vote. But when you look at it, yeah, it's because she had so many more votes in California.
Sure.
And, you don't dole out the electoral votes by a percentage. You can win by one vote, right? Technically. And that's what Trump basically did in the Rust Belt states of, Wisconsin and Michigan, which are two states that she lost to Bernie Sanders in the primary last time, and Pennsylvania and Ohio. So you look at those, and they were disaffected white workers for the most part, working class people that they felt that the Democratic Party had ignored. And, it came down to that election was decided by about 100,000 votes spread across those 3 or 4 states.
Well, I think her reticence and complacency began in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't go to Missouri. Was it Missouri? She skipped one and didn't focus on it, and she should have. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I was thinking that, and that, I'm not the only one who says that. Thomas Frank wrote a book, Listen Liberal. And he pointed that out, that, and this is what happened is then Trump went in and as the so-called outsider, and he got those people to vote for him.
Now, did the people of Las Vegas, as they gathered there for this caucus, did they discuss, regardless of trying to push agenda and candidate, did they discuss the fact that Nevada is a resoundingly red state?
Yeah, no, see, now where we're at, in which makes it, the red state, resoundingly red, is, of course, is the rural areas.
Yes.
Where you don't have the big population.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You really don't have the heavy population. So you're looking at Las Vegas and Reno being more or less Democratic, and they're just controlling the state. Same thing in other states, too, I would imagine. It's you get into Illinois, and you have rural areas of Illinois, which probably more lean toward the right, but you've got Chicago. And it's you got a lot of votes there. So
sure. Yeah. Now, did they also? I find it very interesting that, especially in Las Vegas, I hear many people speaking about it because it's such a hot topic. Yeah. Voting never was really hot in the last 10 years. Yeah. But it seems as though the DNC. Yeah. Is frightened that he'll win again. Yeah. And that's why they're pushing so hard with the agenda that we have to beat Trump, and then here's everything, the format that we're going to follow.
Well, I mean, it's so rigged anyway. There was a guy there who represented the DNC. He was with the DNC there at the caucus.
He was, okay.
And he was in full Joe Biden regalia. He had this button and the shirt and the hat and everything. I thought, oh, well, because there's no rules against any type of non-partisan being, being neutral. So, they're banking on that. And I would think that the DNC and the power structure of the Democrats would rather lose to Donald Trump than have somebody like Bernie Sanders get the nomination. I mean, I think that even the last time with Trump, I think that the Republican Party at that time, you looked at the John McCain and Mitt Romney coming out against all but saying we're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. And Trump, I mean, you looked at it, he didn't appease at all. He doubled down. Yes. He shot right back at him. Yeah. And that's what I think got a lot of people to say, oh, he is a outsider. And now, of course, the Republicans changed their tune because, I mean, that's...
Well, it's a tough horse to back.
Yeah, it is.
You said there was one African-American
he was there for, he was actually aligned with Elizabeth Warren.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Because, I would assume, because of his involvement and his vice presidency with Obama,
Yeah.
that Biden's going to carry a
Yeah,
heavy.
and certainly he is doing pretty. He even in Nevada, Biden did well with African
Now,
Americans.
were there Hispanic caucus participants?
Not in mine.
Not in
I
yours.
think that's why,
Wow.
again, because Bernie Sanders had like 50% of,
Yes.
more than 50% of the Hispanic vote.
Yes.
And that's going to be crucial. I mean, you look at like California,
Uh-huh.
and why woo just if you're trying to win as a strategy, you don't need Southern California Republicans.
Okay.
You have, Los Angeles is the second largest Spanish speaking city in the world. Only Mexico City has more Spanish speakers.
Right.
Think about that. And no other city in Mexico, no other city in South America.
Yeah.
Spain does not have a city that has as many Spanish speakers as Los Angeles.
Right.
We know one thing about Trump: he spits and shits all over Hispanics. So
Yeah, he
this
does.
is a way of for them to get their revenge.
So,
possibly.
2 questions.
Yeah.
3 actually. Do you think the Las Vegas participants of the caucus
Yeah.
represented us well? Do you think the results were accurate based on your precinct?
Yeah.
And will you do it again?
Yeah, I would do it again.
Yeah.
It is a little more involved.
Well,
but-
will you do it again / do you think this is an antiquated method?
Yeah, I can see, I could see in some cases where it really works well in a more rural area. You do kind of lose the anonymity. I mean, none of the people I saw there, I recognized. I knew, there's Las Vegas. You know how it is. You might not know. I mean, I know my neighbors and everything. But I mean, they weren't there.
Right.
I don't know if it meant that they voted early. I don't know if it meant that maybe they're Republicans, but I don't think so. I know them well enough that it's not something we talk about.
And so were we represented well, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm only looking at Henderson, so
Yeah.
the results kind of went the way I thought. Remember, up to a month ago, Joe Biden had a 7-point lead in Nevada,
Yes.
and he just got his head handed to him. Basically, I mean, he was saying, "Hey, I finished second." Yeah, you were like 27 points behind.
Yeah, his concession speech, if you will, it was "we caught up."
Yeah.
We're catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he ended up with 21%.
Yeah.
And Bernie Sanders had 47.
So within the debates,
Yeah.
within your caucus,
Yeah.
and all the talk
Yeah.
and speeches and
Yeah.
whatnot, did you speak of things that are important to Las Vegans? The taxes and gambling and
what they
land
talked about.
development.
No, they talked about was just very general terms.
It was,
and it was
okay.
basically how do we win the White House?
I see.
And their contention, most of them were thinking, and like I said, to me, it's an old outmoded idea. And then I guess they don't back anything up. Bernie can't win because he's too far to the left. Well, the polls are showing otherwise. Even national polls, which are saying, okay, comparing the candidates. He's right now, again, we need some kind of evidence. He's beating Donald Trump in head to head. Some of the other candidates aren't, or their lead over Trump is smaller than what Bernie Sanders is. So to say that he isn't electable is just, no, you don't have evidence for that. Hey, Tom Steyer isn't electable because he's only polling about 5-6% anywhere, and even though he has absolutely carpet bombed our airways with TV ads the last 6 months.
Ugh.
And it's like, God, I'm happy not to have those all the time. And not that I even disagree with the guy on a lot of things that he. I don't have a problem with a lot of that, but still, this is all you can muster. He's not going to be the guy to put up there.
What was when people spoke of Bernie Sanders in the negative? What was their main point? He was
a crackpot to the left.
Crackpot to the left.
Yeah,
and
mostly.
is that founded in people's misunderstanding of socialism?
Yes,
it is.
I'm pretty sure it is, and the fact that they've become so accustomed to where they're at on the right, that they forgot that really, particularly if you compare Bernie to other, really social democratic socialists in Europe,
right?
He's pretty much a moderate. He's kind of a centrist compared to everybody. Now, granted, for us, but like I said, everything has shifted so far to the right.
Right.
What used to be the left is now in the center. That's why somebody like Elizabeth Warren, up to 2000, was a Republican.
Yeah.
Did she really change her mind, or did she stay where she was at and everybody else moved so far to the right that all of a sudden she was with the Democrats? It was the same thing with Arlen Specter. He was the senator from Pennsylvania, and he went from being a Republican to being a Democrat. Yeah. Well, his views didn't really change. It was the party shifted so far to the right. And he said, I don't recognize him anymore. Yeah. And similarly, Donald Trump was a Democrat at one time.
Right.
Now he's a Republican. Michael Bloomberg was a Republican. Now he's come on. Yeah. It's become to the point where and I've said this before, Jamie, there's one party. There really is primarily that one party, and it's the trickle down economic party, the supply side economic, the capitalist party. And, that's pretty much it. And they differ on things like pro-choice or abortion, prayer in school, those sorts, gay marriage. Those are the things that they differ on. But those really are social issues. I see it not really. They should not be really political issues.
Yeah.
Gun control, that sort of thing.
Did you agree with, or were you pleased with, which I think are two different questions, with the results?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had, he had done better in my precinct, but overall, I was happy with that. He becomes the first candidate ever in history for either party to win the popular vote in the first three primaries. No one has ever done that before.
Okay.
So,
Now, do you?
One of the other complaints, criticisms, and I said, I can see that, was his age. I said, Joe Biden's old too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all old, kind of, except for Pete. He's not very old. And Amy Klobuchar is, I looked at Tom Steyer, 62. He's an old looking 62, I think.
Yeah. And Warren's 70.
Warren's 70. So yeah. I said, but why is it then the oldest candidate has the youngest voters? Right? I mean,
yeah.
Maybe because it's not so much that his ideas are so brand new, it's that his ideas are old. But they seem new because we've gotten away from them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the younger voters, the MTV voters that used to be back in a few years ago, they're going to think that, hey, that new band Whitesnake is really cool. Yes. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Bernie.
Yeah.
So who's number two? Who do you think? Who's going to be is it going to be Biden? I don't mean number two as far as the vice president.
Yeah.
Do you think Biden is going to be Bernie's,
main rival?
Yeah, the rival.
It's interesting because what's happening.
Buttigieg just can't do it. There is an impediment that he's not going to get over this time.
Yeah, Buttigieg and Biden and Klobuchar are all dividing up that centrist vote. Because if you total them up, it's pretty neck and neck then with Bernie, right? I mean, he had so far ahead. But then if you throw Warren in with Bernie's group, then he's ahead. And what we're seeing here is that when they attack Bernie Sanders, he goes up in popularity. Look at what happened with Elizabeth Warren when she went after him. He went up, she went down.
Yes.
The kiss of death for any candidate, the kiss of death, they will lose if they get an endorsement from Hillary Clinton, either one of the Clintons.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want that. And I think this whole thing with Russia now, trying to help both Trump and Bernie, it's going to help them just because it paints them as being the outsiders. That's how people see it.
Yeah.
But you do not want to get Hillary Clinton's endorsement. For her to say, "Oh, he's unlikable," okay. Well, that's great. His numbers went up after that. So keep talking trash about him.
Well, yeah. Now, for some I don't know why it got buried, but that whole attack, from Gabbard, because Hillary basically said she's,
everybody's a Russian agent. I mean, this is it. The Democratic Party's starting to sound like Joe McCarthy.
And she didn't say on the payroll. Yeah. An agent.
Yeah, an agent. And I thought
like
Tulsi Gabbard's contributions went way up after that.
Yeah.
Because what she had said was that Hillary Clinton represented the rot of the party, and I think she was right about that. So.
Well, yeah, but I think she's throwing stones at a person not in the game, though. I mean,
yeah. Well, she didn't. She was out there for her to get. Tulsi Gabbard was out there to express her ideas, push her ideas, and she knew she wasn't going to get the nomination. And she's still in it. I mean,
Yeah. So
others have dropped out.
Yeah. So again, so you think Las Vegas and Nevada represented well?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have too many issues. I mean, this one here, what they did was they got the wrong, the way they found out they had the wrong information is they had the electronic information, but they backed it up with a paper ballot.
Okay.
So then they counted the paper ballots and compared that to the electronic results that they had. That's where they found the discrepancy. So wait a minute, we got the wrong polling information. Let's go to the paper ballots. We know that those are official. They counted those out, and that's what they went with. So
now, you said obviously the participants were cordoned off, and you spoke at your times.
Yeah.
But you said was there a standing room only place where people could observe?
Well, observers.
And were there people doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in some ways because they have a guy who's the chair. And he has to count
of the whole thing
of each precinct. He's the precinct chair.
Okay.
All right. How many votes do we have for Joe Biden? And they hold their card up, and he 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I count 15. Is that right? It's just like there are better ways to do that.
Right.
I mean, as a teacher, dude, have everybody sit down and have the other ones stand up. That way, you can count them instead of he's trying to do a count of here and there and. So that was kind of old fashioned like that in that regard. So they did have those type of hand counts.
So yeah, it's always felt like a good old boy method of doing things.
Yeah.
Now, do you think Las Vegas and Nevada as a whole, are we growing up? Are we adhering to the importance of our, electoral votes?
Yeah.
And are we representing ourselves? I mean, or is it still some apathy there?
I would prefer if they had all the primaries on one day, right? I mean, you get tired, the system, and it is. It's killing. It has to be tough on these candidates,
right?
And a lot of them were, as you know, are senators. You got 3 of them that are working, and now they're away from doing their senatorial jobs because they're campaigning, and they have to campaign.
Yeah.
So why not have everything on the same day? But Nevada was the first. I mean, you look at Iowa. They have 90% of the Democrats are white. New Hampshire's even higher, 92%. Finally, you get to Nevada. And then you start to really see the makeup, right? The ethnic makeup of the nation or of some states. So Mayor Pete does quite well with white people, but he does really bad with minorities. He has a bad record in that regard. So you're not going to win a lot of support in other states where you have that. So to me, New Hampshire and Iowa are interesting, but you get to Nevada, now you're starting to see a little more mix.
Did the people, I'm assuming they didn't have a time where they did, said who they were, and I mean, did they?
No. So I didn't know who anybody was.
Okay, and did you get into conversation with anybody? I mean, my question is, were there a number of casino workers there?
I didn't know what they did.
No, okay.
I would guess based on the people that in my precinct, they were either retired. Or some of them there was a couple of millennials there that looked to me to be in my group. I don't know what they did. There was a couple of college students.
Okay.
And so that was kind of and they were in the Bernie group. So I didn't get a chance because we were in the grandstands. The Warren group, they went by alphabetical order.
Okay.
So, with Biden and then Buttigieg, and then Klobuchar, and then Sanders and Steyer and Warren. And they just sat up there and didn't move, the Warren people.
Right.
So... I talked. Again, you're not going to convince people. I mean, they're not going to listen to me. I mean, even I asked Jesse, how did I do? He goes, you did fine. He says, but some people just aren't going to listen to reason. They just don't know.
I would assume that.
Yeah.
Now, media coverage, is that allowed within the caucus?
Yeah, there was a guy there I talked to who was named Steve Rosenfeld, and he's written books. He writes for independent media. And he'd been in Reno a couple days earlier.
Okay.
And he writes for Salon.com, among others.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so he was there covering it and paying attention. And
but how about our locals? Fox, ABC.
I didn't see them there, but I saw them on the news later on. I mean, they went from somewhere, but I'm sure that there were some around there anyway.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, here's the big question.
Yeah.
So doesn't necessarily have to do with Las Vegas, but assuming Bernie's going to keep his momentum.
Yeah.
I don't see where he's going to get torpedoed heavily anywhere now.
Yeah.
Super Tuesday, of course, is coming up,
Right.
so there'll be a whole glut of them. But do you like his policies?
Yeah.
Do you like what he is wanting to bring to the presidency? Because again, I think it is I think if you look at it from military point of view, I think their attack is completely misguided. Number one, can you beat Trump? And number two, oh yeah, what's your policies?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yes.
But okay, if that's the way the DNC wants to run it, that's fine. What do you think of his policies? Do you think he'll represent Nevada well?
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we have a very large segment of the population, particularly here in Las Vegas, that are working in the service industry.
Yeah.
And they could benefit from increases in minimum wage, for example. That could benefit from improvements in the healthcare system and college. A lot of them, even when I taught at the college, at College of Southern Nevada, they were charging upwards of $250 a unit. And and a lot of people, they can't afford it. They would like to go to college, but Jesus, $750 for a 3-unit class. Now, I taught the same class in Washington State, and it was $30. Here it was $750.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what the state charges. So it becomes unaffordable for a lot of them. They put their kids to college. I mean, I'm doing that now with mine, and I'm fortunate. He's going to be fortunate. He's not going to have debt. He might put me in a little bit of a hole. But no, I mean, at least I've got money set aside. Now, I would like to, it'd be great if I had that money to spend on my retirement,
right?
But I don't. So, but at least I have it for him. And so I feel, and I know a lot of people aren't, the average person here does not have $2,000 to their name. They can't come up with $2,000. $400, I understand, they can't write a check, it'll bounce.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got more than $400, you're doing better than most Americans.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm doing better than most. But Jesus, are we really doing that badly?
Well, John, you always need bail money.
Yeah, that's true. Always have that set aside.
Do you think that Buttigieg and the other qualified candidates, Warren maybe, do you think that they're being groomed for the subsequent 4 years? Because it's my assumption that if they push the Democrat through, and he beats Trump, he or she beats Trump. Let's be honest. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
They're 4 years. And I just don't think, and therefore I think Bernie, he has pie in the sky when it comes to socialized medicine. I mean, 4 years, you can talk about it in 4 years. And that's
well, one of the things Bernie said even 4 years ago was, and again, the president doesn't make the laws, right? Congress does.
Oh, yeah.
So just electing him or anybody with the same views isn't enough. It has to work at the level of, you have to elect Congress people that are behind it.
Right.
You have to elect senators who are behind it. If you don't have that support, you're right, you're not going to get it through. So that's the other issue. And it means for the Democrats to get rid of their deadwood. That means get rid of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all of these people that just don't do a damn thing for anybody, really. They're hurting the party with their impeachment, which the results were going to turn out. They're going to vote down party lines. Republican, they were going to acquit him, and now it makes it look like he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then really, he's done far worse than investigate the Bidens. And I mean, he really thought that Joe Biden was going to stay be his main company. I mean, whatever. I mean, for a guy who has as much dirty laundry and baggage as Donald Trump, and people have ignored it anyway. So I mean, his supporters are going to ignore it. That's not going to change their minds. It just makes the rest of us realize, like I said, it's Hillary getting all those votes in California. After a certain point, you don't need any more there. You need them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's not going to resonate with anybody. We just know you thought he was bad. Well, this is how bad he is. You find a new level of corruption with this guy, or pardoning Rob Blagojevich. Blagojevich, thank you. And these other people who donated money to his campaign.
Michael Milken, that was a interesting one.
Yes, the junk bonds guy and all these white collar criminals.
Are you glad you went?
Yeah.
And did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tiring. I had other things to do on.
I won't ask if it's worth it because it was. I'll answer that for you.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes to show you. And one thing I even told with my kid was, you saw that we were even with the original vote. We were one vote short. If we would have had just one more, we would have been viable right off the bat. We wouldn't have had to stand there for so long.
Yeah.
trying to convince others, we would have had it. So one vote does make a difference at something like a caucus.
Okay.
You
okay.
know,
Because I'm a harsh critic of one man, one vote.
Yeah.
I don't believe it exists. So were they prepared for more people? I mean, you said between 30 and 40 people were involved.
Yeah.
It seems like they might have been not prepared for 100.
Well, of course, a lot of them had pre-voted, right? I mean, they'd done the early voting. So, as my understanding was, more people did that than actually showed up at the caucus.
Okay.
I think they said 75,000 people in Las Vegas or around the area had shown up for early voting, and only 40,000 show up for the caucus. So that's why. I mean, I noticed that when I walked in, I said, "This is it." I mean, I was 10 minutes and I was registered, waiting in line, 4 people in front of me. And hey, I'm all ready. And I said, can I leave and come back at noon? Well, once you got the ballot, yak. So we stood around for 2 hours.
Right.
Looking at other people come in, and who do you think that guy's for?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this guy coming in with the Andrew Yang shirt. Yang.
Yeah. Well, John, I appreciate that. I've never been to something like that, and honestly, next opportunity I have to go with you. John was very nice to invite me. I was unable to go. I will definitely go. It sounds like exactly what I thought it was, and yet it had some nuance that I wasn't aware of. So it's very interesting.
It's far more personal. In that regard. I mean, you do hear what people have to say, and I realize, well, if they're just saying that, well, this guy, I mean, he's well known to everybody, and he's honest and trustworthy, and to me, it's just like, those are just platitudes. They say that about everybody.
Yeah.
So, what was it, or what evidence do you have? And that's how I look at it coming from an academic background. Always you have to have evidence. Just don't tell me that we need to go to the center. Okay, why?
Yeah.
What evidence do you have that this is because I'm looking even among Democrats, your candidate's not doing very well.
Yeah.
She's polling at 5%. Or whatever, or 6%, or she's not getting the minority vote, or whatever it is, it's going to be needed to win.
Of course. Well, John, again, thank you. That was fantastic. And for anybody that doesn't know, look into Nevada. If you live here or want to come here or want to know more about it, look into the Nevada positioning as it regards the most recent electoral votes. It's very interesting, and we're quite important. They for a little gambling cow town, formed by the Mormons. We've become quite a swing state. Yeah.
Well, one thing that they did have, I noticed it, and I heard they did this at other precincts, was they actually had a deck of cards, and in cases of ties, they would draw.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So in one case, Bernie drew an ace, but they said, no, that's just a 1.
Yeah.
I thought, well, if you're playing blackjack, it depends. Usually, you see the ace as being a high card, right? I mean, it's an ace.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They do that. And I will say, Nevada, when we do state assessments, the math people that I've worked with who did Nevada, so they always liked Nevada because they allowed items, test questions, that dealt with dice.
Yeah.
A lot of states won't because they always see that as, somebody rolls, they're talking about probability. What's the probability somebody rolls a dice, he's going to get a 3. It's 1 in 6. Yeah. But they're asking a little kid, it's gambling. No, they're rolling a dice. You could be playing a game, right? You play dice, you play Monopoly or a lot of board games. You roll dice, right?
That's interesting.
Nevada, sure, they can have that on there.
See, we can always throw Nevada and Las Vegas can always throw some just a little bit of ourselves into everything, and I think it's great that the political process is also affected by that. That deck of cards thing, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Well, folks, on a more somber note, if you remember, if you've been with us from the beginning, we've only recently changed formats. When we began, we had a young man. His name was Sam. And he helped us produce the show, and he was a great participant in the show. And he unfortunately fell ill recently. Well, unfortunately, Sam succumbed to his illness, and he passed away a couple of days ago. And we want to reach out to his family and friends and say, how sorry we are about that. Sam was a big kid. And
he was a gentle giant.
Gentle giant. He loved video games and food and talking and comic books. and he was a really unique individual and a great guy. And so we want to say how sorry we are, but we absolutely know that he's found his peace, and we want to say goodbye, Sam, and you'll be missed.